And it may be true for certain cronies of the ruling party. However, there is a different reality for the rest of Jamaica. Early last year, in 2024, and this was before the Hurricane Beryl hit, the World Bank projected that Jamaica's economy would grow at only half the rate of the rest of the Caribbean. And that was excluding Guyana, taking out Guyana. It would grow at only half the rate of the rest of the Caribbean over the next 2 years. Since the initial COVID recovery, the economy has been slowing for 8 or 9 quarters. It stalled in the quarter ending June 2024 and then declined by 3.5% in the September quarter. And while everything is being blamed on Beryl, the fact is that trend, that trajectory was set 2 years earlier. The economy is projected to continue its decline in the December quarter, and for the 2024 calendar year overall is projected to shrink. When these projections are confirmed in a couple of weeks' time, the economy will be in what the analysts and the economists call a technical recession. That is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. When we drill down into the various sectors, agriculture, forestry, and fishing down 12.5%, mining and quarrying down 17%, manufacturing down 4%, and the construction sector, which has been declining for 4 consecutive quarters. Thank you for backing me up with this publication, the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. And construction, which has been declining for at least 4 consecutive quarters prior to September, is down 3.3%. We've seen from the start of the year, sales of construction inputs have declined. NHT housing starts have also declined. Hotels and restaurants, if you were to listen to your friendly counterpart, you would think that, well, he sounds like Pollyanna. You wouldn't believe that hotels and restaurants declined 6.2%, not only because of lower stopover arrivals, but the net yields are also down.
And commercial flights are less.
We talk about the potential. Of Kingston being a logistics hub. And 10 years ago, Tony Hilton laid the foundation for that. The port was privatized on a concession, and a lot of investment went in, that we laid the groundwork for that. But I'm disappointed to report in the recently published Global Container Port Performance Index, which was published in second half of 2024, Kingston ranks 378 out of 405 ports evaluated. That's in the bottom decile, 378 out of 400. But that's bad enough, because you might say we're being compared to these big ports in China and Dubai and Europe and North America. But they have a subcategory that's just limited to the Caribbean, Central and South America. In that category, the Port of Kingston is ranked second to last.
Wow.
We rank behind Freeport and Nassau in the Bahamas. We rank behind Bridgetown in Barbados. We rank behind Georgetown, Guyana. We rank behind Castries St. Lucia, and we even rank behind Port-au-Prince in Haiti. So, you know, this is indeed this is a World Bank report, by the way. This is not. This is the Port Performance Index. The main criteria is the time it takes vessels to turn around. And you can go online and look for it. It's published by the World Bank. So I know all of you look shocked. I was, frankly, as well, very disappointed. But if we want to talk about developing logistics, hub and a logistics industry, we better carefully examine how we improve this performance. And let me say, I respect Prof. Shirley, and I actually discussed this with him. And he had some arguments, you know, of why, and he had some questions. But the fact is, we need to get to the bottom of this, because we can't be seriously talking about all the advantages of Jamaica relative to the Panama Canal, one of the largest natural ports in the world, etc., and yet we're ranking close to the bottom. Hurricane Beryl exposed the fragility of the economy and its dilapidated infrastructure. The south central coast of Jamaica received only a glancing blow from a weak hurricane, and yet the electricity and telecom infrastructure crumpled, as well as many homes and school buildings. It took months to restore electricity to parts of South Manchester and St. Elizabeth, and the telecom service there is still spotty and unreliable even today. More than 6 months after the passage of Beryl, students and teachers of Prattville Primary are participating in classes under difficult conditions. In fact, for the entire September term, it was only through the kindness of 2 churches in the community why they were able to hold classes in those church buildings. As we speak today, the younger cohort, the younger grades of children are still operating from the Prattville Assembly of God Church. At the same time, but let me back up, because I saw Minister Morris earlier this week in a story, and I'm sorry that she's not here. But early in her story, she was talking about we're all to blame for the dismal results in CXC. But I want to make her know we're not all to blame for the condition of the Prattville Primary, because many of us have raised, including me, in this Senate, the poor conditions, the dilapidated and rundown conditions of Prattville Primary before Beryl. The principal had written to every, apart from the Ministry of Education, she had written to every donor agency, every trust, asking for help. And it wasn't until literally the whole thing has collapsed before we're seeing any action belatedly. However, while we couldn't find funds to do this, since 2019, we're paying in the region of 1.5 billion for an empty space in the Megamart building in this same parish where we can't afford to fix our schools. Our roads, not just in South Manchester, our roads in Jamaica are in the worst condition in living memory. And anyone who campaigned in the Enan Town by-election can attest to that. The Bank of Jamaica put out last year, past due loans in the banking system jumped 27%. This figure was in the third quarter of last year, jumped 27% relative to a year earlier, past due loans. What that tells us is that both individuals and businesses are struggling to meet their obligations. The education sector is in a sorry state. Less than 20% pass 5 subjects with math and English, which is what's considered the equivalent of a high school graduate. The dropout rate is high, teacher migration is high, and believe me, we're sending some of our best teachers, most experienced, and teachers with a lot of innovation in their teaching methods are being recruited. And, you know, I saw the minister saying we're all to be blamed for the dismal results in CXC and CSEC exams. Well, I well recall the Prime Minister, when he was leader of the opposition, in this house, saying, don't tell me about any whole of society problems. It is the government's responsibility. Why else do we elect a government? So please, go and look it up. The public health facilities are mostly dilapidated. Health professionals are overworked and burnt out. And patients and their families often feel callously treated by the system, as many wait for days and even die waiting in passageways, in makeshift wards, sitting in chairs, or lying on benches. Large sums are being spent, but going to waste, mismanagement, and corruption. Cornwall Regional Hospital is probably the marquee example of that. Started as a 1.5 billion project, it's climbed past 21 billion now and counting. Health statistics are getting worse rather than better. In fact, in some cases, we have been set back decades. Instead of moving towards the Millennium Goals, we're heading in the other direction. Go no further than in my region, in Manchester, in the Southern Regional Health Authority. The maternal mortality rate, that is deaths due to complications from pregnancy or childbirth, increased tenfold, from 27 per 100,000 live births in 2017 to 273 per 100,000 in 2022. That's the Ministry of Health and Welfare Statistics, not mine. That is even significantly higher than the global maternal mortality ratio of 223 deaths per 100,000. Jamaica used to be an example to the rest of the world in maternal and child health. No longer. But performance doesn't really matter, it seems. The lives of ordinary people don't matter. What matters is the friends and cronies of this JLP administration. So we reward the board chairman who presided over this scandalous increase in maternal deaths with a national honor. At the same time, we continue to spend $1.5 billion for an empty space in the Mega Mart building a stone's throw away from Mandeville Regional Hospital. For the first time in our independent history, we cannot complete a proper census. The most basic of exercises. The most basic of exercises to count how many people in Jamaica and where them live. The results of a census are critical for planning and policy, where to locate schools and clinics, where to deploy social workers and allocate other public resources. It's important information for the private sector also.
I never heard it.
So let's do our census.
The last census on the Statin website is 2011. The whole world went through a pandemic, but not the whole world. Most of the countries in the world have completed their census, even if it was a couple years late. Up to now, we don't have no sign of when we will complete this. The fact is, when you add up, when you look at those points alone that I've just made, it shows that this JLP administration has been operating a plantation-style economy. Low skill, low wage, low productivity, high job insecurity as contract work predominates.
And government partners.
In that environment, they bullied public sector groups to accept 20% or else, then turned around and gave themselves 200% increase. I want to turn now, Mr. President, to crime and corruption. And I'm not going to crime and corruption. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, as I contributed an op-ed in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago, where I think it was set out quite adequately. The number of murders in 2024, for the first time in 9 years of this JLP administration, returned to the range that obtained in the previous PNP administration. And it is important to observe that the reduction has happened in the 2 years since the use of states of emergency has declined dramatically.
Interesting.
This reduction is a testament to the effectiveness of targeted policing strategies over the ineffective states of emergency previously employed extensively by the Andrew Holness administration. The People's National Party has long advocated for data-driven, focused action to combat crime. But while the 2024 numbers are encouraging, it's critical from an accountability point of view to assess the 8 preceding years of stagnation and missed opportunities in crime reduction. Under the PNP's former administration from 2012 to 2015, the average annual murder figure was 1,129. Still high, but the lowest of any administration in 2 decades. By contrast, the JLP's first 8 years from 2016 to 2023 averaged 1,416 murders annually, a 25% increase that resulted in 2,300 more lives lost than if the PNP's numbers had been maintained. Jamaica's homicide rate remains alarmingly high, compounded by an increase in mass shootings in 2024. Additionally, we need to start paying more attention and tracking closely the over $1 billion annually, which is estimated to come from scamming and bank fraud. These are not currently reflected in serious and violent crimes report, but they often end up funding organized violence and must be addressed through comprehensive tracking and enforcement. The reduction in crimes that we welcome for 2024 is this just the beginning of a journey that is far from over. Enforcement alone is insufficient. Jamaica must address the underlying conditions that perpetuate violence, inequality, social exclusion, and lack of opportunity. I want to turn now to corruption. And let me start by quoting. In the debate on the bill establishing the new Integrity Commission, the Prime Minister Andrew Holness, then said, and I quote, As a politically independent country, we could have achieved much more were it not for corruption in many forms. Revenue leakage.
That's 2017.
Revenue leakage due to corrupt practices, misuse of public funds, and the overall perception of pervasive corruption, all of which have served to compromise the flow of investment into our country. Listen to this, Alvin. All of which have served to compromise the flow of investment into our country. End quote. Now, this helps explain why net foreign direct investment in 2023 is less than half what it was in 2015.
It grew by 35% in 24.
It is less than half. It is less than half what it was.
That is over the year.
You know, that's like pushing a knife 6 inches into somebody's back, pulling it out 2 inches and then celebrating, right? The net, listen to the data. Listen to the data. Net foreign direct investment in 2023, World Bank statistics, 376 million. In 2015, it was 926 million. Right? Clearly, corruption has compromised the flow of investment into our country, based on the Prime Minister's statement. The Prime Minister continued. The Prime Minister continued, and I quote, "The Economic Growth Council has also recently identified corruption as a significant retardant to growth." End quote. But let me repeat that. Prime Minister Andrew Holness continued, quote, "The Economic Growth Council has also recently identified corruption as a significant retardant to growth." End quote. Now, colleagues, we understand why, notwithstanding all the economic and fiscal reforms implemented since 2013, growth is so elusive. The PM signaled it. Corruption. The PM signaled it. Corruption. But let me continue. In his message to commemorate International Anti-Corruption Day in 2020, the Prime Minister stated, and I again quote, "Under the leadership of Chairman the Honorable Justice Seymour Panton, the Commission continues to distinguish itself, operating without fear or favor, in pursuit of a just and corruption-free public sector, and ensuring the best and most efficient use of public resources." End quote. What a full-throated and unqualified endorsement of the Integrity Commission and its leadership under Justice Panton. Now, this is where, you know, that meme that they use on YouTube or TikTok that says, "A few moments later." In this one, it would be a few years later, after the Integrity Commission issued a damning investigative report on the same Prime Minister, detailing a series of complex financial arrangements involving 28 bank accounts with thousands of transactions and hundreds of millions of dollars passing betwixt and between these accounts. Then suddenly, that same Prime Minister That same Prime Minister
Mr. Bunting.
is going
Mr. Bunting.
to court
Mr. Bunting.
seeking to strike down. What is the point of order?
So I don't hear it yet. Me not feel listen, man.
The member is alluding to a matter that has been placed before the court.
That's not what is
That is the Supreme Court of Jamaica, where the individual reference has contested strongly the findings of the Integrity Commission.
That's not what before.
And the standing orders, section 35(2), says reference shall not be made to any matter on which a judicial decision is pending in such a way as might, in the opinion of the chair, prejudice the interests of the parties thereto. I urge us to caution the member to be wary of the path upon which he's embarking upon.
Yes.
Senator Bunting, you kind of get a bit of guidance here, so continue, but please. Thank you, Senator Fitzgerald.
Well,
Yes, so you're saying to me
suddenly,
now?
that same PM has now gone to court, and I'm not commenting on the strength of his case. Just the fact is, he has gone to court seeking to strike down the provisions of the Integrity Commission Act and declare Section 14(5) unconstitutional. This is quite an extraordinary approach in the history of
Senator
No.
Bunting.
I'm not expressing anything.
Senator
on the case.
Bunting. Senator
I am
Bunting.
saying,
Senator Bunting.
I am saying, first of all, allow me to say what I'm going to say. Sit down.
Point of order, sir. I will not be intimidated by you. Who do you think you're talking to? The member is trespassing upon the standing order, sir, by alluding to a matter that is before the Supreme Court of Jamaica. The standing orders, section 35(2), forbids such a path. I'd urge you, sir, to advise the member to comport himself accordingly. You won't intimidate me. I will say what I have to say.
Senator Bunting, let's continue your presentation, recognizing the caution that I will echo in relation to what is before the court, and I would be obliged if you just didn't just
Mr. President,
continue.
all I was saying.
And sorry, the speaker's time is up. The speaker's time is up.
Mr. President, the Speaker's time having expired, might he be permitted to complete his presentation?
Thank you, Minister. The question that the minister's question be approved to allow Senator Bunting to complete. Those in favor? Senator Bunting.
You better get accustomed to that practice from now.
My observation is simple, that it's very unusual, in fact extraordinary, that a law piloted and passed by his government and which his Attorney General would have certified as constitutional is now being challenged in court. That's all I'm saying. Making no comments on the case or trying to influence the case.
You know a case, but you're not going to go there.
But what is interesting is that the JLP administration has not only reneged on its support for the Integrity Commission, but many of its parliamentarians have launched an all-out assault against the Integrity Commission and against any initiative which would hold the corrupt accountable. The GLP has abandoned the commitments it made to the Crime Management Oversight Committee, CMOC. It committed to introduce unexplained wealth orders. It committed to introduce body-worn cameras for police. All these things they have moved away from. Suddenly, they don't want accountability. Suddenly. They're not the Minister of National Security said it has no value on operations. He made that statement publicly. He said it has no value, and he's the one who supplied it. And the fact is, it is not being used. It is not being used on operations. It is not being, Indicom made that comment. It is not being used on operations. Right? And this is not an operational decision. It must be a policy. It must be a policy of the Minister of National Security that body-worn cameras are worn. It is he who is responsible to Parliament for the accountability of professional police officers, and he should make it a policy that they use body-worn cameras. And this is not something that professional police officers would be afraid of. In fact, it is a protection for them once they're operating in accordance with the law. So this is not any anti-police thing. This is protecting them, and it is also gaining the trust and the confidence of the citizenry, which is key to sustain success in policing. I want to turn finally to the area of productivity before I conclude. And some might wonder why productivity, making ice in Florida and importing it to Jamaica. The ice boss, though, is afraid I might reach to that. One may wonder why the leader of the opposition coupled citizen security with productivity. But truthfully, productivity is, and competitiveness is the key to growth. Various studies and surveys have identified the top 3 obstacles to competitiveness or productivity as crime, corruption, and the burden of government. And that speaks to burden of government means bureaucratic inefficiency, tax rates, etc. Many developing countries have transformed their productivity, economic growth rates, and development prospects over the last 3 decades. It was just recently brought to my attention by Professor of Sustainable Development at UWI that the BRICS economies now contribute about 35% of world GDP, more than the 30% contributed by the G7 countries, measured at purchasing power parity. If the current trend continues, by 2030, over 50% of world GDP will be generated in countries who only fairly recently, within a couple decades, were classed as developing. However, this shift has left Jamaica behind. For various reasons, a significant one being corruption, Jamaica has not yet been able to achieve or sustain high growth rates. Bold and decisive action is required if Jamaica is going to break out of the low productivity, low growth trap. One important part of this strategy is to produce graduates of tertiary institutions that can increase the productivity and competitiveness of businesses and create new enterprises through greater entrepreneurship. But at present, 70% of Jamaica's workforce has had little formal training or certification once they've left high school. And this is reflected in our low productivity. We need to develop a trained, skilled workforce, certified to international standards, which will help to stimulate investment, employment, and increase national productivity. That is why the opposition has proposed to repurpose the Heart Trust as an institution that funds training and upskilling of the private sector workforce, matching the expenditure of private employers in this area dollar for dollar once they're using a credible training agency. However, any investment in education, training, and research must have a clear strategic focus if it is to have the necessary transformative effect. There is little point, for example, in training graduates to work in industries that are dying, that are in decline, are in their sunset years. One such example that I've raised here before is the bauxite alumina industry, as it's currently configured. It is in secular decline, and Jamaica should be planning an exit with the least damage to the country's finances and to the environment. We should learn from our early examples of the sugar and banana industries, where we were reluctant to accept those industries' inevitable decline. The situation in this bauxite alumina sector is so embarrassing, so humiliating, that questions I asked in December 2023 took almost a year to be responded to by the government. And some parts of the question are still not answered.
That's speed.
What we do know is that one operator, Discovery Bauxite Partners, which is a joint venture between Discovery Bauxite Operations and JBM, they owed $7 million to Petrojam at the time I asked the question, and owed millions more US dollars to mining and haulage contractors and other suppliers. The fact is, the only skin in the game, so to speak, the only real risk equity was from the government and the people of Jamaica. But we're seeing nothing but financial and environmental liabilities in return. So when the answers provided to my questions, we see that Discovery Bauxite Partners, Discovery Bauxite Operations paid nothing for profit sharing, tax, or royalties for 2021, for 2022, nor 2023. Even the asset user fee, which seemed to be the only guaranteed component of the arrangement, supposed to be paid to JBM, that was almost 2 years in arrears with an unpaid balance of 2.7 million US. And this was predictable. I well recall when this arrangement was being proposed in the lower house. The record will show that I and many others predicted this dreadful outcome. Those who negotiated it are guilty of either gross stupidity or corruption. To appreciate the damage this dying industry is still inflicting, one has only to drive through some areas of South Manchester and Southwest St. Anne to view a landscape that looks post-apocalyptic. Mined out pits that have been left without rehabilitation for over a decade. Or go to Yuatan and see the semi-derelict processing plant regularly spewing toxic effluent into the Rio Cobra, contaminating our environment. So what is Jamaica gaining from this dying extractive industry? In 2023-24, we got zero from the income and profit tax from the bauxite alumina companies. This is not just Discovery Bauxite. This is from the bauxite alumina companies. Zero. Year to date, 2024-25, 25, we have also received 0 income and profit tax from the bauxite and alumina companies. Last year, 23-24, we were getting less than US $1 million per month from the bauxite levy. Little bit, but at least something. And this year to date, we're getting from the bauxite levy, you want to guess? 0. Nada. Nothing. The little insecure employment that Jamaica gets from this industry is not worth the environmental liabilities we're leaving for our grandchildren to pay. And this is the same entity that's being allowed into the era of the cockpit country to potentially destroy one of our most valuable and sensitive ecological areas. Quite frankly, this is irresponsible, and this Parliament must take it up. What we need to do is shift our vision, shift our focus to the strategic industries with a future. And that future just doesn't happen by accident. It has to be planned. So where are these sunrise industries? And without trying to identify, without trying to pick winners, I want to take 2 industries that would be considered mature in Jamaica, but mature and at a crossroads. Yes. One is the business process outsourcing sector. He said various figures, let's assume it employs 50,000 people. I had lunch yesterday with a senior executive, international executive in the BPO sector, one of the biggest employers in Jamaica and elsewhere. And he says by their estimates, employment in the L1 operations, and as I understand it, the L1 are those who are doing basically the call centers. They're doing transactions, they're doing sales, they're doing relatively simple troubleshooting, upselling, that sort of thing. He says that's where most of Jamaica's employment comes from. He said their estimate is that that will decline by 15% per annum worldwide. 15% per annum. Those jobs will be replaced by artificial intelligence. Replaced by artificial intelligence. 15%. He says it is possible to upskill and move up the value chain of those employees, those 15%, but the investment in upskilling has to start now. He says there is no plan coming from this government in terms of how to deal with that. It's like you see a train wreck coming and you do nothing until you're hit. The other area that we need to look at, a mature industry, but which, if it is to become a sunrise industry, we again need to change our approach. As you have said, just counting numbers and bodies that are arriving is not enough. I was in my colleague's second favorite country or favorite country, Barbados, a few days ago. And I'm always amazed at the rates they get at EP hotels for rooms that are certainly not better than the ones we have in Jamaica. But their EP hotel rates get better daily rates than we get for all-inclusive. Sometimes almost twice the rates.
I've been quote some
And
per capita GDP. Tell them all come
they don't focus on what I call commodity tourism, where you're just worrying about the bodies coming in. The sun and sand tourism, the commodity tourism. They want a tourist, not that's going to spend $200 or $300 a day, but that's going to spend $1,000 or $2,000 a day. And we need to start adjusting our industry in the context of scarce resources, scarce housing for workers, scarce airline lift, scarce seats. All these are constrained. We should be maximizing the earnings we get from each one. And so these are the things that you don't wait until the industry falls out. You have to start planning for it to ensure. And finally, in terms of being able to make all these transitions, we need to look at the reform of our tertiary education system. Recent tracer studies suggest that around half of our undergraduates and postgraduates who had found employment were working in jobs that were not related or only partially related to their discipline. And that significant majorities were dissatisfied with their salaries, benefits, job security, and opportunities for advancement. This suggests a growing mismatch between the skill sets acquired at university and the market demands for those skills. A university degree used to be the route to a well-paid job, but many university students today owe substantially more than the initial amount of their student loan, which they took 5 to 10 years ago. So, there are examples of people who borrowed $1.5 million for the 4 years in principal to pay for their school fees. 7 years later, after paying $500,000 in payments, they owe now $4 million. This is unsustainable, it is demoralizing, and it causes us to have to re-examine the whole educational system. And it has to undergo extensive reform. So, in moving to the conclusion, instead of telling you what I have told you, I'm going to take a different tack. Because I got a call yesterday from a journalist, and she asked me, she had, no, no. ABCA comes from a much older profession. I got a call from a journalist who was asking me about Statin's labor force survey. And they said that the marquee number of 3.5% unemployment seemed good. But what they were asking me about was not the headline figure of 3.5. They were saying the statistic they were concerned about was that 22.2% of our youth, 109,000 individuals, are not engaged in employment, education, or training. 109,000 young people not going to school, not getting any post-secondary training, and unemployed, and not seeking employment. This reflects, I believe, a critical challenge to us as a nation, and it underscores the urgency of addressing the barriers that prevent many young Jamaicans from reaching their potential. The data points to several underlying issues. First, it highlights the structural and systemic barriers to opportunities, including limited access to quality education and vocational training, as well as the mismatch, which I referred to earlier, between the skills young people have and the demands of the labor market. Second, it suggests that economic hardship and social disconnection may be driving many youth away from formal systems of engagement. When young people are excluded from these avenues, their time is often spent in informal or precarious activities. Some may take on irregular work, while others may retreat into idleness, which can lead to feelings of hopelessness. Unfortunately, this connection can make them more vulnerable to negative influences, including criminal activities such as gang involvement. Research has shown a lack of opportunity and social mobility often drives disenfranchised youth into such pathways.
Who's speaking? I thought it was Bunting who was speaking.
Research has shown, you mean you're talking about the person who sang the campaign song for the Prime Minister government badness? Or which one?
Or his name, Bro God.
Or the Bro God Monica? Research has shown that lack of opportunity and social mobility often drives disenfranchised youth into such pathways as they seek a sense of belonging and purpose. To address this, we need a multifaceted approach. This includes expanding access to skills training, apprenticeship programs, fostering greater alignment between the education system and market needs, and investing in social interventions that provide mentorship, psychosocial support, and alternative pathways to success. Additionally, strengthening community-based programs and creating safe spaces where youth can engage in productive activities is vital. This statistic must be seen as a call to action for all stakeholders: government, opposition, private sector, civil society, and communities. Jamaica's youth are a powerful resource, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure they have the tools, opportunities, and support to contribute meaningfully to our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Bunting. "15 minutes for you, Senator Brown." Senator Lambert Brown.
Thank you, President. I'll prepare a fairly fulsome but not as long as Senator Langmore presentation. I'll seek to cut it as I go along.
Senator Brown, let me assure you that you're at liberty to present.
No, I understand. I understand you're just jiving. But equally, the hour is late. Sir? Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Let me start by thanking all those who have been associated with, those who have appointed me. I told my wife, Linda, I'm going to call your name in this speech. I want to thank you for the 46 years, 46 years of putting up with me. I thank my children and I thank my grandchildren, most importantly, for lending me to the nation and for allowing me to serve Jamaica, land we love. I want to thank Portia Simpson Miller, most honorable, for appointing me in 2012 and 2016. I want to thank her for her service to the nation. I want to thank Peter David Phillips, schoolmate of ours, leader of the opposition, who reappointed me in 2020. I want to thank my trade union colleagues all over the country, those in the UAW and all over the country, and the workers, for the confidence they have reposed in me to be their leader. No, come on, I say all over.
I just like to come.
Well, let me put it this way. It's a long list of those in the BIT who have been closer to, including Kawa. I want to thank my Senate colleagues on both sides. We've had tough debates, tough interchange and exchange, but we're still family, and enough respect is due to you. President, last year, when I spoke in the State of the Nation, it was in January of 2024, it's coming so close after my illness and hospitalization, I felt, and I think I said, that would have been my last State of the Nation address. I thought by then, Brogard would have called it. But seems he's too coward to have called it. But this year, my appointment in the Senate expires when he calls it. This year being an election year, and reading Senator Gill, the polls, and feeling the wind of change blowing across the country, it is with a high degree of certainty, high degree of confidence that I can say this is my last State of the Nation in opposition. I believe I speak for all 8 of us on this side in saying what the people are saying, time come. When I continue to serve in this or any other capacity in the future, rest, Mr. President, in the hands of the next Prime Minister of Jamaica, Mark Jefferson Golding. He, Senator Lambert, is a man of the highest integrity. I tell you a little story. You all went to eat Moby Dick, provided meal a while ago. But a couple years ago, Sophia, I think you were there, Flag, you were there, we left the Senate. Mark was a member of the Senate. We went to Moby Dick for curry goat and roti and to drink a red stripe beer. Well, I said to Mark Golding, Mark, he was in the Senate then. You are a future leader of the PNP. You will be Prime Minister one day. Well, first part has been fulfilled. He is the leader of our party, and we are proud of him. The next part is coming. Because time come. Mr. President, this year the country celebrates 50 years of the Labor Relations and Industrial Dispute Act. A bold, a revolutionary break with the past by Michael Manley. Last year, we celebrate 50 years of the Employment Termination and Redundancy Payment Act, another bold move by Michael Manley. I will just say one message to the government. Take your hands off the redundancy money that workers get from those legislation. This senator, this trade unionist, this citizen of Jamaica is opposed to any amendment to take away the right to redundancy payment for the workers of Jamaica. I believe, I know, I have the support of Mark Jefferson Golding that we will not take away the redundancy payment from workers of Jamaica. Mr. President, I also have the commitment of Mark Jefferson Golding that contract workers will be protected by new legislation. That contract workers will be protected by new legislation to avoid the abuse and exploitation that has taken place across the country. So, for those reasons, Mark Golding continue to enjoy my support, and we look forward to him being the next Prime Minister of Jamaica. Senator Gill, when you opened this debate, we appreciated the tone. Your focus on improving the physical and mental welfare of the workers was well appreciated. You spoke, my brother, as a true trade unionist, and I ask you to applaud. I support your call for that wellness. No, come on, I'm a friend long before I know you. Yeah. Before you even born. Mr. President, the recent episode of a firefighter, ex-firefighter, climbing up for the second one to the top of the transport center in Tree should alert us to the real problem in the workplace of mental health issues. Last year in the fire brigade, and we mourned with them, Senator Gill, they lost 13 members of the brigade, dying. Different issues. Big stress on them. And you weren't the only one who talked about wellness. My friend Senator Lambert, she also spoke about wellness. And I say that this is the area that we can work together on across the aisles. Build out programs and policies and legislation. Let's do it. Because time comes for us to work together on those areas that we can agree on. Also, where's my friend, Senator Albin Hill? Senator Hill, you made contribution to the Senate. And I will come back to him, but let me hail my colleagues on my side. Senator Janice Allen, you spoke about the gratuity. Show PNP policy can work, and they will follow back at you when you call for it. Senator Floyd Morris spoke about housing and where the PNP will go when we form the next government. And how can we forget the passionate contribution of the youngest among us, the other Senator Morris, Gabby. Gabby who will rally around. She spoke about the dream. She spoke about the dream and the need to keep the dream alive. Senator Hill, not here, but I prepared this presentation with him in mind. We can agree, Senator Hill, that unless we export more, earn more foreign exchange, we won't be able to get the growth and the prosperity the country so badly needs. Senator Hill is not here, but I have to say to him, to the empty seat, Senator Hill, you're candid enough to say to us that in 2021, our trade deficit stood at 4.4 billion. Floyd, but by 2023, he told us the trade balance, trade deficit is 5.7 billion, a whopping 30% movement in the wrong direction. And of course, Senator Morris, as you said, we didn't, we didn't factor in the importation of ice. Then it's worse now. So, there are areas in which we can work together across the aisles. But President, there are areas of disagreements that came up in the debate. And I want to speak to some of them. Last week, we saw a desperate despicable, disgraceful, disingenuous, dishonest, and divisive attack on a son of Jamaica, Mark Jefferson Golding. But we understand why. We understand why he was attacked in that way. But, Senator Langmore, we on this side believe that when you go low, we will go high. Every time the PNP has a meeting, we sing a song. It's called Jamaica Rise. And the first stanza goes, the trumpet has sounded, my countrymen all. So wake from your slumber and answer the call. The torch has been lighted. The dawn is at hand. Who joins in the fight for his own native land? Mark Golding, you know, is a good singer. Mark Golding sings that song every PNP meeting. Mark Golding sings the chorus, land of my birth, I pledge to be loyal and faithful, true to thee. And Mark Golding also sings the last stanza. Mark Golding also sings the last stanza, which says, in steadfast assurance that God will look down and give us the blessing, our efforts to crown, let us all be united to build by His grace a nobler Jamaica, a loftier race. That is what Mark Golding believes in. A nobler Jamaica, a loftier race. And so, we will go high when you go low. But we understand why. We understand why Mark Golding is being attacked. Mark Golding has been described by the Observer newspaper as a winner, and such man a loser. The polls have showed that Mark Golding-led PNP is 9% in the lead over the JLP. And in fact, the General Secretary of the JLP made the point recently that the JLP, by a friendly pollster, is 12 points behind the PNP. The Mark Golding is being attacked. Mark Golding is being attacked because he has a net favorability rating higher than the leader of the Jamaica Labour Party. Mark Golding is being attacked because his statutory declarations have been certified. Mark Golding is being attacked because he's here to serve, not to scrape. Mark Golding is being attacked because he is not among the 8 parliamentarians being investigated for illicit enrichment. Mark Golding is being attacked because he's not one trying to get the Constitutional Court to remove from our laws the offense of illicit enrichment. Mark Golding is being attacked because he's the one who moved the motion to bring impeachment against public officers, including parliamentarians who breach the law. Mark Golding, a man of integrity, clean hands and a pure heart. But President, if I was to advise Mark as to how to have responded to Senator Langmore, I I would say, no, Pedro, I have to. Pedro, what I would say to the leader of the People's National Party, send her the quotation from Luke 6, verse 28. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. President, Senator Hill spoke about faced with an economy in trouble. He had to try and distract us by talking about ex-convicts at the PNP conference. President, his comment runs counter to the call from his cabinet colleague, Delroy Chuck, to increase the number of expungement of criminal records, including, according to Chuck, those convicted and sentenced for murder. Albin Hill call runs counter to that. His call also, President, runs counter to the warm embrace of his Minister of Culture, Babsy Grange, the warm embrace she gave to the man that Isaac Buchanan and others successfully got their Privy Council and the Court of Appeal to release. It seems to me the JLP is here talking about out of two sides of their mouths, and that is the definition of hypocrisy. Mr. President, I will not brief. Radam. Mr. President, I will not brief for those people who have been convicted at some point or another. But we should not play politics with the misfortune of others. In 2019, there's a concert at the stadium entitled Long Walk to Freedom by Bunting. That concert brought real benefits to Jamaica. People came here. We earned foreign exchange. Buju and berries, whether at Plantation Cove or in Miami, brings to the country foreign exchange earning. And so I said to Senator Hill, Minister for responsibility for investment, do not condemn the cultural and creative industry because some of them at some point fell afoul of the law. In fact, I say this much, the cultural and creative industry will bring more to Jamaica than the corporate trust companies that he was talking about. Mr. President, in recent time, New Year's Eve, there's a big concert at the stadium, Freedom Street, it was entitled. Freedom Street is reported to have impacted our economy to the tune of between 1.5 and $2 billion. Someone said to me that the former client of my friend, Senator Tavares Finster, was in one night earned more in investment for Jamaica than the ambassador appointed in 26. And now the Minister of Investment has brought to Jamaica in 9 years. In other words, Five's Cartel concert has contributed more to our economy than Albin Hill in 9 years. We should not be too quick to despise others, because while I do not equate these convicts or ex-convicts with our national heroes, we must bear in mind, President, history be told, 4 of our 7 national heroes were convicted. 4. Of the other 3, President, of the other 3, one was charged for manslaughter involving political activities. Charged and tried for manslaughter. And that one was Nanny, and it was Norman Manley. So, I close this part by saying to Senator Hill, as a professed Christian, you should know that on that hill in Calvary, where there was a old rugged cross, people there were convicted too. And at least 2 of those convicts went on to paradise. So I said to Senator Hill, and those who are quick to condemn others, bless you, Peter, those who are quick to condemn others, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they have done. Mr. President, I intended to talk about the potholes. And I just simply say this. In Jamaica today, we have to look to find where is the road. Because potholes dominate the main roads, dominate the scheme roads, dominate the farm roads, dominate the community road. When you drive now in Jamaica, you have to ask, where is the road? In fact, the potholes are so numerous that this government has had to declare a state of public pothole emergency. Sadly, after 9 years, the Prime Minister blames the opposition for the potholes. I have a message for the Prime Minister. And that is a message sent by the outgoing Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who once said, anytime a government resorts to blaming the opposition for failure to deliver on their mandate and their responsibility to the people, it is a clear sign that they have accepted that they have outlived their usefulness. End of quote. This is a sound advice from the outgoing Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to the outgoing Prime Minister of Jamaica. I say, Andrew, heed that call. Andrew, call it, Andrew, call it. Call it, Andrew, call it. Call it, Andrew, call it, and stop blaming opposition. And when you don't blame the opposition, you blame climate change. Mr. President, I want to move quickly. There's more I wanted to say. I want to move quickly to the issue of corruption. Because, President, I went back to look at but you want to take the extension now, because if that's 3 minutes, you may want to take the extension now.
Yes, thank you. The Senator Gill, the minister not being here, would you please ask for the extension for the speaker? For your friend, for your big friend, the union friend.
Since the time has elapsed, Mr. President, and the Speaker has not concluded, I ask the Senate to extend him sufficiently for him to complete.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Gill. Question asked and put. Continue, please, Senator
President,
Brown.
the government came to power in 2016. And by 2017, they brought a bill to Parliament saying they want to deal with corruption. It happens that that bill was really the work of Mark Golding in 2012. And all the government did was to adopt it. And proof of that is found in the Memorandum of Objects and Reason for that bill, where it says the cognizance of the foregoing in May 2012, an advisory committee was appointed by Minister of Justice, acting on the direction of the Cabinet. So in that bill, they are admitting that Mark Golding was the architect of the Integrity Commission legislation, because the country knows that we suffer from corruption. The polls are saying 65% of our population believes that corruption has gotten worse in the last 5 years. 65%. That is to say, 2 out of every 3 Jamaicans believe that under the Andrew Onus government, corruption has gotten worse. Let that sink in. After all, 8 parliamentarians are under investigation for illicit enrichment, and that includes the Prime Minister. Several ministers of government are to resign or be removed because of corruption allegations. Corruption is depriving our people of a better life. It's depriving them of beds in the hospital. It's depriving them of proper school facilities. It's depriving them of good road to drive on. Corruption is a scourge against our people. No wonder at the prayer breakfast, Mark Golding said, God bless the Integrity Commission. Mr. President, Senator Lambert, when she spoke, put up a slide. I think it was the first slide. And she said, we need the public health sector to be more efficient. Wasn't the first one? But one of the slides that talk about Asia and the need for efficiency in the public sector. Correct. I agree with you. The resources we have now can do better. And let me share with you, Mr. President, and share with the country through the Senate that we are wasting resources. Just recently, a little bird flew by my window and left a package. It says to me that the Bustamante Children's Hospital recently purchased a neuro drill, a drill needed in surgery by neurosurgeons. And the price, we are told, that the government of Jamaica paid for that drill. Let's find the slide, the picture. The picture of the drill. Yeah. The government of Jamaica, through Bustamante Children's Hospital, paid 27 million Jamaican dollars for that drill. Let me go over it. $27 million paid for that drill. When you check on the internet, it's not a Black and Decker. That drill can be had for $32,000 US. I have seen invoice where that said drill was purchased in China at under $14,000 US. President, if I bump up the price of that drill to 50, not 32, not 14,000 US, to 50,000, and multiply that by 160 Jamaican dollars to one, that's 8 million. We are paying 27 million, price of 3 such drills at Bustamante Children's Hospital. We need to know who got that contract. And of course, President, the bird did leave the contractor in the package. $27 million for a drill at Bustamante for neurosurgery. That at the highest price is 8 million Jamaican. We go further, President. When you look at that 27 million and you divide it by 160 Jamaican dollars, that drill was sold at the equivalent of $170,000 US to the government of Jamaica. Wow. And you tell me about efficiency? You tell me about red carpet for the whole library? That could have buy 3 drills. And if you buy from the people who building the Children's Hospital in Montego Bay, yes, you could have buy probably 10 or more of such drills. Something wrong. Something wrong. And I'm calling on the Integrity Commission to investigate that purchase and whether Jamaica got value for money. And Senator Longmore, you have not risen a point of order. You hear the same thing I hear. You hear the same thing I hear. President? It's all right. I'm fine. I'm fine if you say it's erroneous. I'm fine with that. President, I want to say something that she will say is erroneous too. That at Bustamante Hospital for Children, that is paying $27 million for something that at the most could cost $8 million. There is no microscope to carry out pediatric neurosurgery. There is no microscope to carry out pediatric neurosurgery. There was a case recently in the media, so I'm not going there because I don't want Senator Fitzgerald to jump up and point of order. But what I am told is that much of the tumors that our children face is in the back of the head. And that microscope would help the neurosurgeons to find all the tumor. The absence of that microscope is telling. President, we're spending $27 million to buy a drill from a friend of the political boss. Yet, Bustamante, the only children's hospital in the country, have no CT scan machine. If my granddaughter, our grandson, or your grandson, or your granddaughter, or the children of our people get sick and has to be rushed to Buster, they have to be moved to somewhere like KPH to do a RUE, to do a CT scan. That time of movement is valuable. It's the difference between life and death. Senator Lambert, it's not the money. It's how we look after our friends. $27 million for a drill that we could pay $8 million or less for.
That's not right. That's not right.
And I call again on the Integrity Commission to investigate. I know they're going to tell me, oh, we follow the procurement rules. But the Jamaican taxpayers get value for money. And so, Mr. President, why are we paying $170,000 US for what we could pay between 14 and 50,000 US for? It's not right. And if Damian Crawford was here, he would say, what can go so? And the maths, not smart. So, President, I could go on about the health sector. When I listen to Senator Lambert talk about how great the employment is, Senator Lambert, because I know I represent doctors, I know. I mentioned you a lot, man, because you were in the news plenty last week. I want to mention you 10 times. I'm going 4.
Maybe 100.
I want you to understand that many of the doctors that Tufton said he would appoint from last year are still without appointment. I know that as a fact. And you can say that that is erroneous. It's so bad. It is so bad, President, that in my negotiation with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Finance, we have asked them how many doctors you employ. How many doctors you employ? And if you ask your sister, she will tell you that that question was asked. How many doctors employed? And would you believe that between August last year and now, the government of Jamaica cannot tell us how many doctors are employed to the public sector? We're in a chronic. And so, President, that spinal drill, it's a neurospinal, and that's what it's called, neuro drill if you want. Different name you want. But the drill used by the neurosurgeon, it hurt me, it burned me to see how we're wasting taxpayers' money and fattening our friends. And I am asking the government to come here and refute what I said. Bring the bill and receipt, come, and tell me you never pay 27 million for it. Bring the bill, come. I dare you all, bring that bill, come. Because if you don't, I'm going to formally ask questions in the Senate, for which you will have 21 days to answer. Mr. President, the evening is long. I could go into some injustice. I could go into the crime issues. But I want the country...
Stop encouraging the man.
No, I want the country to know. I want the country... So I've called the speech. I want the country to understand that this government has failed the people. Miserably. Has failed us miserably. Senator Bunting spoke to the economic state. He spoke to crime. So I will not repeat it today. I will have other opportunities to make the points. But I want to close President, by saying, this morning, hold on a fly. This morning, senators met with the Integrity Commission. We did so behind closed doors. But one thing is clear from that meeting, just listening to my colleagues, that many of us have received requests for more information from the Integrity Commission from time to time. It's clear to me, President, that those in the society who are subject to the Integrity Commission Act, who feels that they are being targeted, are mistaken. The Integrity Commission is doing their work. They're doing a good job, and we must allow them to continue to do their work without fear or favor. Mr. President, the Auditor General of Jamaica is doing her job.
Yes, sir.
To imply incompetence or malice is unbecoming of those who do that. It can't be the same people who, when Richard Azan built some shops in Spalding to ease the pressure on people, said he would not sit with Azan in the parliament. Hypocrisy, double standard. You will not hear this side saying, remove illicit enrichment. You will hear this side saying, put in an unexplained wealth order in the laws. So, Mr. President, time come to stop fighting the Integrity Commission. Time come to pass unexplained wealth order. Time come to stop trying to remove illicit enrichment from our laws. Time come to stop attacking the Auditor General. Time come for impeachment legislation for those public officers who breach their truth. Mr. President, Senator Bunting spoke about a government of acronyms. And I understand. Ever since 2011, when the Jeep hit them, all of a sudden, Senator Morris, them gone into acronym. Jamaica Emergency Employment Program. Jeep. It hit them. It hit them and left us with 42 seats in that election. So ever since then, they start with this acronym. First, the chairman of the party, their party, come up with something called LADA. You remember that one there? LADA. Then him come up with, yeah. After Jeep lick him come with LADA. I don't remember. Then him come with HOPE. HOPE. Then they come with Aspire. They come with REACH. They come with Spark. And now they come with SPEED. Well, President, since I love acronyms so much, I have an acronym to sell them. I have an acronym to sell them. That acronym is RIGHT. RIGHT. So you can borrow it. In fact, I won't sell it. Let's give you. Give you for free. And that acronym RIGHT can be seen in the following terms. Resign, it's going home time. Do the right. Do the right. Resign, it's going home time. So let me see if you get it right. Do the right. Resign, it's going home time. going home for house too. And Mr. President, as a former colleague of ours, Senator K.D. Knight, said in 2011, I said that to this government, reflecting, I'm on the floor. I say to this government, as my friend and former Senate colleague K.D. Knight said in 2011, it's time to pack your bags and go. May it please you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Brown. Senator Gale.
Mr. President, after listening to that, sir, we call for a suspension of the State of the Nation until a date to be fixed.
The question is that the debate on the State of the Nation be suspended for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Against?
President, I don't believe that we intend to do anything else for today.
No, you need to be a bit more positive. You can't say you don't believe. You have to say something more positive.
Well, after all of that, I'm quite sure. And so we call for an adjournment of the Senate.
No. The question is, the question is that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Against? This Honorable Senate now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed.